with a stand, so you have to hold it in
Yeah.
your hand.
Okay, so I'm Nirvikar Singh of UC Santa Cruz. Could you please introduce yourselves for this video?
Yes, I'm Talat Hasan with Hitek Venture Partners.
Yes, I'm Kamil Hasan with Hitek Venture Partners and also with Granite Hill India Opportunities Fund.
Okay. Tell us a little more about what your company does, Hitek Venture Partners.
Yeah, through Hitek Venture Partners, we have been investing in early stage startup companies in Silicon Valley, high-tech companies, primarily at seed stage. And through Granite Hill India Opportunities Fund, which is a private equity fund, we have been investing in companies in India at a later stage, companies that need growth capital, which already have significant revenues and profitability.
I'd like to thank you both for being so instrumental in forming the advisory group for this research project on Indian American entrepreneurs. And I'd like to ask you, each of you, what do you think has made Indian Americans so successful, and in ways that might have been unexpected, where we have professionals from India coming here and becoming successful as entrepreneurs? So I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
I think it's a number of factors. First of all, a large portion of the immigrants from India that came were very highly educated and came here to get advanced degrees. So they came, first of all, armed with a good education to begin with, and then took advanced degrees here. So they had that. Second was the language advantage. Most of the Indians that came here were fluent in English and therefore able to communicate very well. And I think also the fact that they culturally were able to adapt very easily to this country. On the other side, the US offered an unprecedented opportunity for people from India to succeed primarily on the basis of their skills and their hard work. So, you know, there was no caste system, there was almost no class system, and the US is such an incredibly meritocracy-oriented system that I think it made it much, much easier for Indians to excel in this country.
Yeah, I would just add to that also that I think the value system in India had a major impact on the success of entrepreneurs here. The emphasis on education, the emphasis on family is really one major, very important part for values there. And I think that had a very important effect on entrepreneurs here, because they were able to then leverage on the education. Parents in India, for them, education is very, very important. And also the motivation to succeed. Indians, as you will see, many young Indians, not only now, but you know, like many of us who came in the past, have this urge to succeed. Because you're coming from India, you have the motivation because you're coming to a new country, and you have this urge to succeed. And they work much harder, and I think with a combination of good education in technology, English, and that set of values, I think made us do well.
I would also say one more thing, which you know, perhaps people don't think as much about, is that, you know, India being a country with such a vast population, and until recently with very limited resources and opportunities, Indians naturally are very competitive and ambitious and hardworking. They have to be to get anywhere in that country, because the opportunities and resources were so limited. So the group that actually ended up here is sort of a self-selecting group. This is
Right.
the group that, fought really hard to get to the top academically, fought really hard to get into the top universities in India, which is so competitive, and therefore, we've all grown up having to fight for getting ahead. And that remains true in India today. There's just not enough
Yes.
education institutions, not enough opportunities for the large numbers of people. So that makes Indians naturally entrepreneurial and competitive and hardworking, I think.
So, as you point out, Indians, in some sense, were well positioned to succeed here, and each of you was successful in your initial careers in academia, in the corporate world. What was the driver in moving towards entrepreneurship?
Well, at least when the first generation group came from India, there was a glass ceiling. I think it was very difficult for us to succeed beyond a certain limit in major corporations. And I think we were all very ambitious, and we really wanted to succeed big. But in big corporations, we reached the glass ceiling. And therefore, many of us then moved into entrepreneurship, where on our own we were able to make those companies into big successes. That at that time, that was a big motivation. Now, fortunately, that glass ceiling is not there, but that was one of the main motivations, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. In my case, it was not really so much a matter of a glass ceiling, because I was very, very young when I started my first company. In my case, the motivation was just the ability to do something technically very exciting and enabling, which I was having difficulty doing within a very, very large multi-billion-dollar corporation. So my motivations were very similar to those of other mainstream entrepreneurs, which is just being able to do something new and exciting and away from the yoke of a large bureaucratic corporation.
That's great. So you've, I think, had really a lot of success in Silicon Valley. You've seen how things have been changing. Where do you see the future of entrepreneurship, particularly in the Valley, but also what do you see happening in India in terms of entrepreneurship? What is the potential? What are the roadblocks?
Yeah, I think one big trend that I've seen, not only in Silicon Valley but also in India, is a lot of young people are becoming entrepreneurs. And it's interesting that in the past, some of us were using very complex technologies in Silicon Valley to develop companies. What is happening now, these young guys come up with very simple ideas and with huge, very, very large markets, and they're able to leverage it and come up with products, especially with the use of, with web technologies available, with internet available, with simple ideas, they can target very large markets very quickly. So, as you have seen in social networking also, I think that is happening very frequently now, and you'll see many more young people jumping into entrepreneurship. Same thing is happening in India also. So I think that's a trend. The other trend is that the entrepreneurship and new companies will not only be in the area of technology. I think it is going much beyond that. You see entrepreneurships in media, in film, in a lot of other areas.
Service industry.
In service
new
industry.
ways of servicing customers.
So it's really entrepreneurship, which started in the high-tech industry, is not limited to high-tech anymore. It's expanding in major ways in the healthcare profession, doctors, teachers, film, attorneys. So I think that's a major trend that we have been noticing. And also, new companies now do not require as much capital as we used to. Many companies in Silicon Valley, high-tech companies, used to require a lot of money, a lot of funds. I mean, many companies have you ended up using $100 million. I mean, I've seen myself, I've been involved in companies where they have to raise $100 million to be able to succeed. Now, with just a few $100,000 or $1 million, you can get a company off the ground and you don't need to go and raise big money. So it has become the barrier to starting new companies for young entrepreneurs has lowered from that point of view. So those are, in my opinion, some of the trends which are similar both in US and India.
So is this a hopeful development for India, the lower entry barriers, lower capital costs, the ability to use this sophisticated digital platforms to provide? So I guess we're talking a lot about software-based services or software-enabled
primarily,
services.
software-based services with internet, web technology, and also with globalization. You start a company here, and you can then you can just globalize it almost instantly. I mean, you can get users from all over the world.
That levels the playing field, by the way, for Indian entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah.
Whereas, 15 years ago or 10 years ago, Indian entrepreneurs could not hope to access international markets very readily. Now they can because of the web and the connectivity. So I think it's a tremendous opening up for the Indian entrepreneurs.
Yeah, for example, I'll give you just one example, like iPad. If you look at iPad applications, there are 100,000 applications, out of which about 40% of the applications are from outside US, and a significant number of percentages of applications are from China and India. So just that fact can really illustrate it very well how the globalization has changed entrepreneurship and this whole market.
I think also the other change that I'm seeing in the Indian entrepreneurs is a move into social entrepreneurship, utilizing the experience and the skills of for-profit entrepreneurship to go into social entrepreneurship.
Is this Indian entrepreneurs in India or?
Indian entrepreneurs in India, Indian entrepreneurs in the US.
Okay, both.
Indian entrepreneurs from the US going to India, whether it's solar light projects or whether it's, various medical devices or all sorts of products that have a social good content. There's an increasing number of people in both countries going into social entrepreneurship, which I think is very positive. And I'm on the board of this US-India endowment, so I looked at the proposals that came in, and we got about almost 400 proposals, and a significant number of them were from entrepreneurs who were developing socially conscious based entities, some for profit, some not for profit, but with a huge emphasis on either the environment or on health or on bottom of the pyramid ideas.
Just to add to that, even though many companies, especially in India, and I think it's happening in US also, they may not focus necessarily a mass market, a rural market in India. Of course, many companies are targeting the rural market and they are going purely after social entrepreneurship. But many companies for profit, even in the high-tech industry, in the healthcare, education, many other fields, are now having a certain component of their profits go to non-profit and for charitable work. I mean, their business model, they have a certain percentage of their revenues and profits going towards non-profit work. It's becoming very common. A hybrid model of profit and non-profit is becoming very common for young entrepreneurs in India. And I think I've started to see that trend in US also recently.
That's very interesting. And could you just say a little more about the US-India endowment, just the structure and the goals?
Oh, well, the US-India endowment is an endowment set up by the governments of the two countries to foster cooperative entrepreneurship and cooperation in science and technology in particular between the two countries. And so the idea is to fund promising companies that have developed a technology or an idea, possibly from a university or a research lab, and give them the seed funding that normally they might have gone to angels for to develop the idea into a full-blown company. And so the board consists of 9 people from the US, 9 from India that are tasked with managing these funds and selecting promising startups and encouraging startups. And one of the requirements of getting a grant is that there should be a collaboration between US and India.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. What do you think is the biggest challenge for, say, you're looking at Indian companies to invest in, and you also look at Indian entrepreneurs? What is the biggest challenge for them in terms of starting a business? What, if there was one thing that one could transplant from Silicon Valley to India in terms of the way things are done, what might that be?
I would say good management. I think I've seen very good entrepreneurs with very good ideas and very good products, but there is a lack of good managers. And always after the company has completed its product and they're ready to market their product and they need good management, there's a real shortage of management in India.
I see.
So I think that I see as the biggest problem.
And this is specifically then for entrepreneurial startups to cross the chasm in some sense.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they get started, but...
they get started, they have good technology, they have good product, and then they reach a certain stage, and after that, it becomes a little bit difficult for them to really expand very fast and to scale up the company because of lack of good managers in India, especially in the area of marketing, in the area of finance. We have seen in many of our portfolio companies, it's so hard to get CFO, so hard to get VP of marketing and VP of sales and CEOs. So that, in my opinion, is the biggest problem right now facing Indian startups.
That's fascinating. I'm glad you didn't say governance, because that everybody says, it's and I think
that will get cleaned up as you get professional management
right.
on board.
No, that's great.
The governance will hopefully sort itself out.
The governance also, you see, many of the investors, when we get on the board, and we get operationally involved in those companies, and our first task usually is to try to clean up the governance. But even after you have cleaned up the governance, you have improved the processes in the company, but even then, to take the company to the next stage, to scale up the company, you really need top management, and they are lacking the top management in India.
Interesting. That's very fascinating. I would like to continue this conversation, but I think we'll use this to whet the appetite of people who watch this, and I think you've given us some really fascinating insights into entrepreneurship, both in Silicon Valley and in India. Thank you.